So the big story today is that several people have been injured in Bangladesh after protests broke out following the arrest of Hindu religious leader Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu, who is a prominent figure in Bangladesh calling for the protection of the Bangladeshi Hindu minority. This is after this happened yesterday when he was picked up by the Bangladeshi police at Dhaka airport. He has been in the crosshairs of Bangladesh's police for some time now, especially after the fall of Sheikh Hasina, and especially since October. We're going to break down the story, explain to you what exactly is happening and how it paints a picture of a certain worrying picture that is coming out about the rights of minority groups, particularly Hindus in Bangladesh, especially in the fall, after the fall of the Sheikh Hasina government. So we're going to break this down for you. Basically, the gentleman in question is Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu. He is a Hindu monk who has been associated with the Iskon temple as well. He's a prominent religious figure in Bangladesh, prominent figure in the Hindu community, and ever since the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government and in over the last couple of months, he has been a prominent figure calling for protection of the Hindu minority in Bangladesh. The idea, of course, was that after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government on August 5th, there was massive instability in Bangladesh. The police had deserted their posts. There were massive reprisal attacks against people associated with the Awami League, and the Hindu community was also particularly targeted by certain groups, and there were attacks on the Hindu minority community. This has been well corroborated, as well as corroborated by numerous international human rights groups as well that have talked about, that have called on Bangladesh's government to protect the rights of minorities in Bangladesh. The view of the Bangladesh government, the interim government that has come in, is that look, these attacks have happened. They're not denying that these attacks have happened, but they are denying that there is anything beyond. There is no organized conspiracy towards this. There is no organized conspiracy to hound Hindus. They are saying this has happened as these are regrettable reprisal attacks. These are isolated incidents, and we're doing what we can to take care of this. But despite those assurances, over the last couple of months, there have been significant concerns raised by members of the minority community that they still feel significantly threatened. In fact, just earlier this month, we had thousands, tens of thousands of Hindus rally across the country in Bangladesh to ask the government to protect them from a wave of harassments and attacks that have taken place. There were around 30,000 Hindus that demonstrated in the city of Chattogram. We have those visuals for you as well, and they were singing slogans. They were asking the Bangladesh government to protect their rights in Bangladesh, and of course, there were protests across the country that you saw in other parts of Bangladesh as well. So earlier this month, again, the Bangladeshi Hindu community, in contrast to what the Bangladesh government is saying, that these are isolated incidents, these attacks that have taken place against the Bangladeshi Hindus are actually are isolated incidents. In fact, they're painting a very, very different picture. They're saying that we continue to be harassed, we continue to feel threatened, and there was massive protests. And one of the, of course, key figures in these protests is the person who has been arrested, Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu. So this is happening at this point in time, and he is someone who, in the context of this, has come out as a major leader of the Bangladeshi Hindu community. In fact, in October, my apologies, he was charged with sedition when he hosted a saffron flag in Bangladesh. The idea was, of course, that he was hosting the saffron flag above the flag of Bangladesh. This was seen to be seditious, and a case was filed. He was one of the 18 people charged with sedition at this point in time, and there was massive anger about this sort of development, because they were asking that, look, there have been minority groups in Bangladesh were asking that, look, there have been targeted attacks against minority communities, and you're finding the time to launch sedition cases against members of the community. So the influential group, the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, which is a minority unity council in Bangladesh, has actually estimated that there have been more than 2,000 attacks on Hindus since Sheikh Hasina's government fell in August, and the interim government in Bangladesh has struggled somewhat to retain law and to keep a semblance of law and order in Bangladesh. And so in that context, you've seen massive protests by Bangladeshi Hindus. In that context, you've seen someone like Chinmay Prabhu come under the scanner of Bangladesh investigative agencies in October, and now he has been arrested. He was arrested on Monday by Bangladeshi police, as I said, at the Dhaka airport, and that has led to large protests across Bangladesh. There were protests in Dhaka, there were protests in other parts of the country as well, in Chittagong as well, where people are coming out in force to sort of put pressure on the government to protest this arrest of this Hindu religious leader, which they see, of course, as completely separate from the problems facing the Bangladeshi community are. It shows a level of insensitivity to the concerns of the Bangladeshi Hindu community. But the added layer of complexity here is that now, during these protests, several of these protesters were actually attacked by forces, by particular forces, by miscreants. They're still at this point where we will get more information on this story. We will find out more about the perpetrators behind this attack, but there were several people who were injured after these protests broke out. There were attacks on them by unknown groups, these protesters who coming out for Hindu minority rights. So that has added a layer of complexity. It has also generated a reaction here in India. Remember that for the last 75 years, the state of the Hindu minority in Bangladesh has always had a very important impact on the relationship between India and Bangladesh because of the cross-border linkages in terms of the that borders themselves do not therefore divide communities in South Asia, and that is particularly true when it comes to India and Bangladesh. That there is a Hindu community here that feels a kinship with the Bangladeshi Hindu community, and therefore attacks and harassment faced by the Bangladeshi Hindu community always has a resonance here in India. And in fact, we've had a BJP MP, Shukanta Majumdar, come out and actually say that he condemns what has happened with Chinmoy Prabhu in Dhaka. He's criticized the government as well, and he has also called on India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar to take an interest in the case and see what can be done. In fact, you will recall how important this issue of Bangladeshi Hindus is, because when Prime Minister Narendra Modi met or spoke with Mohammad Yunus, who's the chief advisor, the head of the interim government in Bangladesh, he very forcefully raised this question of the rights of Bangladeshi Hindus, because it has a political impact here in India. There is a resonance here in India as well. So that is the picture that has emerged. Attacks on Bangladeshi Hindus who were protesting after the arrest of one of their spiritual leaders for in a sedition case that took place in October for flying a saffron flag above the flag of Bangladesh. That is the picture that is emerging at this point in time. We'll keep you updated with more information, but I also wanted to leave you with one additional piece of information, which is how the Bangladesh government has handled this entire crisis. While after these initial attacks that took place in August against Bangladeshi Hindus, you had the army chief as well as chief advisor Mohammad Yunus. To their credit, they did come out and they did call for religious unity. They have called for protection of the Hindu minority community. But despite that, as I was citing, minority communities have cited 2,000 attacks against the Hindu community since August. In just 3 months, 2,000 attacks, and there remains a consistent sense of fear, of insecurity in the among Bangladesh Hindus. In fact, Indian journalists have gone and spoken to those communities, and they have said that, look, we continue to remain fairly scared about what is happening in Bangladesh. Now, on the other hand, despite these records of attacks as well as this sense of insecurity, the Bangladesh government, led by Mohammad Yunus, has called for unity, but has also seemed at times insensitive to the level of insecurity that the Bangladeshi Hindus are feeling at this point in time. One of our journalists, one of the Indian journalists, went to Bangladesh, asked Mohammad Yunus about this particular question. You can find that interview in The Hindu, and Mohammad Yunus seemed to say that the idea that there were widespread attacks against the Hindus is propaganda, and that Bangladesh is a small country. We cannot counter this kind of propaganda that is coming out from countries like India. But his view was very much that the problem seems to be overstated and overblown. But seeing the tens of thousands of protests of people who came out for protesting in the early weeks of November, who have come out now and have been attacked for protesting against the arrest of Chinmoy Prabhu, as well as the documented trail of attacks that we have seen over the last 3 to 4 months, that is painting a picture of a interim government in Bangladesh that does not have a very strong control of the law and order situation, and that is missing something when it comes to being in touch and in tune with the concerns of the Bangladeshi Hindu minority. It is absolutely something that they will have to pay more attention to, because, as I was saying before, attacks on the minority community in Bangladesh is a very, very quick way of creating significant political pressure in India for a strong line against the interim government. The interim government wants a good relationship with India, but that is going to be very, very hard when news of these reprisal attacks are being carried or are coming, or these attacks are coming into the Indian media space. It generates significant ill will in India against the government, the interim government in Bangladesh, and that is something that Mohammed Yunus and his advisors are going to have to look at very, very closely if they want a strong relationship with India, as well as domestic stability at home, because a minority, and Bangladesh and Hindus are 8% of Bangladesh's population, that a significant minority feels so threatened in this day and age is not a very good sign for the interim government. And the fact that in some senses the chief advisor Mohammed Yunus was seen to be downplaying those attacks shows a government that seems slightly out of touch with the concerns of minorities. But we will keep you absolutely updated with the reactions of the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, with Dr. Jaishankar, who has been called upon by BJP MPs to now take an interest in the situation. So how India will react, how the interim government in Bangladesh will react, and how the case against Chinmoy Prabhu progresses, we will keep you absolutely updated here on India Today Global.